Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be with you today, and we have so much territory to cover and so little time to cover it in. I want to give you a tour today of the advertising and marketing programs that Washington Mutual is engaged in and how we're reaching out to become a part of our communities. And I want to tell you, the story is so rich, and there's so many details that I want to get started right away, so just buckle up. And here's where we're going to begin. Probably not at a place that you would anticipate. That is a billboard. That billboard is here in Seattle, Washington. That is baseball. We have a baseball player who is Japanese and who is quite popular. And that billboard was up by the field here in Seattle during the All-Star game. And it says, "Welcome All-Stars." Because sometimes when you're reaching out to your neighborhoods and you're reaching out to communities, the right thing to do is just to say hello. And that's what we did. Take a look at this. You've seen this before. I think you've seen all the statistics on this. There are 39 million Hispanics in the United States today. And there are more Latinos in the United States than there are people in Canada. Now, there are studies out that indicate that 4 out of 10 households in Los Angeles, California speak Spanish at home. And at Washington Mutual, we have about 1,600 stores throughout the United States. And I'll have you know that 25% of those stores have a trade area, which is 25% or greater Latino. We're out there with television and radio and ROP and all kinds of advertising and marketing. And I brought just one of the television spots to show you today. This spot was done by La Agencia for us in Los Angeles, California, and it's called La Playa.
Hay cosas en la vida por las que no se debe pagar. Por eso en Washington Mutual, cuando decimos que su cuenta de cheques es gratuita, es porque es gratuita. Venga hoy por su cuenta de cheques gratuita. ¿O prefiere seguir pagando? Cuenta de cheques gratuita de Washington Mutual. Realmente gratis.
This is the view from Chinatown in New York City. And this advertising campaign was done for us by our good friends Bill Amata and Nita Song of Amata Wong in Los Angeles, California. It is Chinese, and you probably know the 4 great inventions that came from China. There was paper and printing and gunpowder and the compass. And of course, the 5th great invention was free checking from Washington Mutual. That campaign's up right now in New York. This is a marketing campaign for our African-American neighbors. The woman in that newspaper ad, her name is Mariah. And Mariah, when Washington Mutual went to New York City, was not so sure about that free checking. She had heard about free checking, but she didn't know whether to believe it or not, so Mariah kept an eye on Washington Mutual. And every single week, Mariah was out in the newspaper, and she was telling about her experience with Washington Mutual and her friends and whether that free checking account was really free. That campaign's running now. That was a lot of fun. But what was on the right just set fire to our communities. That is a celebration and a poster that supports that. It's very small. You can hand carry it. For the African American community. And it was designed to celebrate the accomplishments of African Americans who have just made a fundamental difference in the history of our country. And it became so popular, we had it out and we had it in our stores at point of sale, but schools came in and they started to ask for it. And we went into a 2nd and a 3rd and a 4th printing on that, year after year after year, and that is out, and school kids are using that today, and it's being used in classrooms now. This is an ATM screen. That is Russian. And the location is New York City. Let me tell you something. We're not out there marketing to a segment. That is the market. Everywhere those ATMs are located. That's the difference, and you'll hear more about that in a minute. This is the Washington Mutual logo for those of you in any of our market areas who recognize it, and that is the rainbow flag. And let me show you where that is showing up. That's a billboard. And that billboard is out to celebrate Gay Pride Week. It is in Seattle and San Francisco and LA and Houston. It's in Miami and Atlanta and New York City. We're out and we're involved in our communities, and I want to show you something. This is the Gay Pride Parade in Los Angeles, California, and that's not something that we're involved in because people at our headquarters building here in Seattle, Washington, thought it was an important thing to do. Or an appropriate thing to do. That's something that our store managers and our employees out in the community at point of sale ask us to do. They ask us to get involved. The very first year we did that, we didn't even have a float. I think we rented a convertible and hung banners down the side of it, and they walked along the side of it in the parade, and an amazing thing happened. We did more business at that parade in one day than the average store does in 3 months. That's what can happen when you get out and you're a part of the community rather than just marketing to it. Here are a couple of the many, many outlets that we have to reach the Latino community. Do you know when the first ethnic paper in the United States was published? I was kind of amazed to hear this. The year was 1732. And the person who created the paper was Ben Franklin. You know, it just goes to show you. Somebody said to me the other day, I was speaking to the Newspaper Association of America down in San Jose, California, and someone said, you know, it's better to be able to move the world by 3 inches than it is to move an object by 30 miles. And that was Ben Franklin in the year 1732, trying to move the world by 3 inches. And that's important. That's how long that's been around. That's part of the ethnic marketing culture and heritage. And I want to tell you what our view of it is. I talked a little bit earlier about the population of the United States. And as a marketer, that word "no" is up there. Because if you look at the population of the United States and you look at all the segments, and marketers are always talking about that, to us, it's irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything because we're not marketing to a segment, right? Look at this. This is another view of the United States, and these are some of the markets where we're doing business now. This is New York and Florida and Houston, Texas, and Los Angeles, California, extremely diverse markets. And the question here is it important to look at those markets at that level, on a regional level, and to look at the ethnicity of those markets? Well, maybe. It might be. Take a look at this. This is another point of view. These are where our stores are located, and obviously we have more than 4 of them. I think there are 400 and some in Los Angeles, California. And when you're down looking at the trade area of the store, that's where you look at this, because this is not about a market segment. That is the market. When you're looking at the trade area of your store and who's walking in and out the front door of your store every single day, that's where you're marketing, and that's what you're marketing to, and that's what that's all about. A lot of people have said to me, is this a real estate decision or a marketing decision? Ethnic marketing. Well, that ought to be a marketing decision, right? It's not a marketing decision. It's a real estate decision. Once that store lands, the decision is over. You're out there, you're part of the community, and you're marketing to the community. I want to tell you, this is an example of how we look at our communities. And if you just look at that lower level at point of sale, we have flyers and brochures in Chinese language, Mandarin and Cantonese. We have flyers out there that are Spanish language. And those can be triggered by our store managers at point of sale because they can see who's walking in the front door. If you step up to that next level and you look at the trade area of the branches, and we do that, we look at the trade area of every single store and we map it. And there may be times, and there are many cases in 25% of our stores, where it's appropriate to wrap the entire store in Spanish language. And that's what we do. It's in the window, the brochures, every single kiosk, every single poster, everywhere you look. And then when you analyze the top level, well, that's looking at the market level. And if you have enough penetration of the trade area that you can serve the community appropriately, that's when you're out there with television and radio and print. And here's the difference. It's the difference between being out there and trying to support the market versus being out there and trying to attract the market. And there's a huge difference in that. I want to show you what's going on. These are some of the great brands in the world. I have a lot of respect for these brands. The brands at the top of the screen are the brands that I call the brown water brands. Coca-Cola and Starbucks. When's the last time that you saw an ad for Coca-Cola, right? Everyone that I know remembers that bear at Christmas. It's been a long, long time since I've seen that bear. And for Starbucks, I mean, it's really difficult to see. You don't see a Starbucks ad on television, right? Let me tell you something about great brands. Great brands are not about marketing and advertising. Great brands are about operations. Brands are operational. And I love these brands because that's the way they're looking at their brand. They're not looking at it as something that the marketing department does, right? Let me give you an example with Target. I worked for Target Corporation for many years. And I saw Michael Francis the other day. He's director of marketing now for Target stores. And you know what they're doing? They're going to own the color red. And they're taking the color red all the way down to the packaging that you pick up at point of sale. I mean, their product development was just brilliant. I love that. But then when they went out there and they were talking about their brand, they weren't in a room staring at the ceiling creating a television ad. They were out talking about how their customer was going to experience the brand right at point of sale. Nobody does it like Disney. I love Disney. You know where the brand experience at Disney starts? It starts in the parking lot. Because you don't park in F1, you park in Goofy. You know, the people at Disney who get more training than anyone else in the entire park, and those are the people who sweep the park. And the reason for that is that when they did the research, they realized that the people who were out sweeping the park were the ones that everyone was stopping to ask questions. Where can I find ride X or ride Y? Where can I find the restroom? And so they go through over 6 months of training. That is branding at its best. That's branding that's operationally excellent. And so branding is not about advertising and marketing. It's really about the experience your customers have at every single touch point. And that's what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about some of the touch points and some of the ways that we're out there and we're impacting the community at various touch points. This one may be the most important of all. What you're looking at is an employment ad. We're a bank looking for people who have no interest in working for a bank. Now, the reason we did that is, I'm going to show you in a second what people think about bankers. They're pretty, uptight dudes. And so we didn't want people who had that impression of interacting with customers that way. So this is an ad that is out there helping us to recruit people. But one of the touch points where you can affect this, especially in diversity, is to go out there and hire to your brand and hire to reflect the community. It's one of the most important things you can do in creating a great brand. Look at this. These are school-based programs. We have them. We've got thousands of people, store managers out there in schools, and they're teaching kids in kindergarten not to eat money, and they're teaching 11th and 12th graders about credit and the fundamentals of credit. That's important, and that's an important part to be a way to be out and involved in your community. Those are available in Spanish language as well, and we have thousands of people out there every day in schools doing that. This is financial education. Let me tell you, this is in Chinese. This is in Spanish. It is so important because I want to tell you, I saw the most amazing statistic the other day. We were looking at consumer research, and the consumer research was about people who were coming to Washington Mutual. Over 30% of all new customers had never had a bank account in their life. And they're not just coming of age. We were attracting the disenfranchised and the people who had felt they'd been left behind, and that was marvelous. That's exactly what we wanted to do. So we got these materials and we got them in the branch, and what they do is they teach people what it means to overdraft your account. We assume everyone knows. It teaches people the difference between a debit card and a credit card and an ATM card. That's financial education, and that's a very, very important touch point. This is Mr. Coinhead. There used to be one. He's way bigger than me. He's round. And he walks around. He's in parades. He's all over the place. There's like a dozen of them now. And he is the mascot for our school savings program. And we're out there. We've had a school savings program since 1923. And that school savings program is designed to help kids get introduced to their banks at a very early age. And you know something? Kids today have over $20 million on deposit with Washington Mutual. Isn't that amazing? And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, it is to me individually, but $20 million for a banking system, but a quarter at a time? That takes a lot of work, I'll tell you. Here's another example. I want to show you this. This is a program called Walk on Home. When we entered the New York market this past year, Washington Mutual is the largest mortgage lender in the United States. And it was very important to us to make sure that people in our communities had access to affordable housing. And so we organized a walk. Now listen to this. There are hundreds and hundreds of nonprofit organizations in the New York and New Jersey market who are dedicated to affordable housing. And no one in the history of the market had ever pulled all of them together. And we went out and we started working months and months and months in advance. And we said, come join us. And let's get people to walk. And let's raise awareness. And I want to show you what happened at that event. Take a look.
Everybody, Harlem, New York City, Brooklyn, New Jersey, wherever you're from, we're about to bounce this color like this. Come on. This is the Black Party right now. Let's go.
Yahoo for Wobbles!
It's not even a situation now with people who don't have jobs. It's people who have jobs who are homeless.
Kids who come back from college can't afford to live here. They're not going to get jobs here.
I think Washington Mutual is really bringing it to the street, making communities get together and walk and talk about it.
It's a great cause you guys are all here for. Everybody deserves affordable housing.
I take the cause real seriously and I respect them very much.
I was really happy to be a part of this, to support the affordable housing cause in Washington Mutual and the work that they're doing.
great way for Washington Mutual to come into the state. It shows a lot of buy-in into the issues that are important in New Jersey.
It looks like they're doing a good job, especially I think like they want to grow in this area.
Washington Mutual will have a great impact for the people in the communities.
That was a lot of fun. I'll tell you something, speaking of a lot of fun, sometimes it is just about having fun. This is the Washington Mutual Action Teller Doll. The Washington Mutual Action Teller Doll has been on NPR, the front page of the business section of the Wall Street Journal, and this is Seattle Magazine. And Seattle Magazine does this thing called What's In and What's Out. Look at this is great fun. What's in? The Washington Mutual Bank Teller Action Figure. What's out? Vera Wang Barbie at FAO Schwartz. These are our ATMs. Let me tell you something. Is it about the transaction or is it about the experience? That's the question I think all of us have to ask ourselves. And in a bank, obviously we do thousands and thousands of transactions every day. But we decided a long time ago that the transaction was the cost of entry. And what was really important was the experience. And so we started to look at every place where we touch our customers and what those touch points are and what signals we were sending. And we looked at our ATM screens. Now I tell you the most amazing thing about an ATM screen. Have you ever been standing in line at a retail store and heard some retail maven who just couldn't care less, bored out of her skull, stand at the front of the line going, next? Fastest and easiest way to make a person feel like a number. And if you feel like a number, it's all about the transaction, not the experience. And what did our ATMs say? Next. Worse, they said, your transaction is being processed. And so we went out and we thought, we'll reprogram the ATMs and we'll give them a new voice. That was the objective. Tried to take the Washington Mutual experience right down to point of sale, to the ATM screen, and we reprogrammed them. It took a long time. There's over 600 screens that were reprogrammed. They're like 9 months in the process. And now, as opposed to saying your transaction is being processed, we say, we're working on it, just a second, thanks for waiting. Here's another touch point, being out and being a part of the community. I think this is the Chinese New Year celebration in San Francisco, California. We're out and involved at over 600 local and community events each and every year. This is a group of people celebrating their culture. Now everyone semicolon pause and listen to what I'm about to tell you, because we were out and we were involved at these events, and my fear was that we were out and we were putting our name on the event. And let me tell you something, that is the problem with that, and this is where you've got to be careful. I'm on the board of directors of the Seattle Art Museum, and the great privilege that comes with that is when a new art show comes to town, I get a preview tour of it, and I always take advantage of it. And one day, early in the morning, we're walking through, we're getting a preview tour of the next art show. And as we're walking through, the person who's giving us the guide points to a chest, and she said, that's chinoiserie. I had no bloody idea what chinoiserie was, but I didn't say anything. And then we went a little bit further, and she pointed to a painting, and she said, that's chinoiserie. And later there was a piece of silk hanging on the wall. It was very big, chinoiserie. And finally I said, what in the world's chinoiserie? She said, chinoiserie really is a term that originated in the 1600s. And what happened is that there weren't many things being imported from China. And so the Europeans created an imitation of what they thought China was. And that is chinoiserie. Let me tell you something. In ethnic and diverse marketing, avoid chinoiserie at all costs. That's going to come back in a second. Thank you. Because I want to tell you what it's all about. This is true in banking. I'm going to show you a tape. This is a focus group. It was so interesting. I'll never forget sitting on the other side of that smoky glass and watching this. You pay people. They come in. It's after hours. They're tired. And there's this guy sitting at the end of the table, and he doesn't have much to say. And we're asking about banking and their experience with banks. And all of a sudden, from the mouths of babes, that dude sitting in the corner in his jeans and his t-shirt made the following statement. Listen.
I mean, it makes a huge difference. Bigger is not better.
I don't mind that they get bigger, that they switch. The only thing I don't like is the ATM fees.
They whack you with all these nickel and dime fees. They're just terrible.
I guess it doesn't have a soul. Something that I can grab onto. I guess it doesn't have a soul.
Soul is a human term. And we were so surprised to see that someone was using that term in association with a bank. So the question is, we realized that if we could unlock what that guy meant, the bank doesn't have a soul, that we would have the keys to the kingdom. It would provide great insight to every market we dealt with in every single neighborhood. So the question is, what is a WAMU? We went out and we went on a mission. And we put photographs in front of people. You know, if you say to people, what do you want from your bank? They'll say, I want a higher interest rate. But if you put photographs in front of them and you say, choose a photograph that reminds you of your bank, you'll get great insight. Now, you can see here, there were just incredible photographs laid out there. There was a guy bouncing his baby on his chest in a field, and there was a big fireplace, right? I want to show you. Pick a photograph that reminds you of your bank, and they picked Cujo. And they were amazingly articulate about why they chose that photograph. They said, well, banks are predatory. They're out to nickel and dime you with fees. And that was where, this is the father of free checking from Washington Mutual. That's where that product came from. How do you feel about your banker? Do you want to invite those dudes over for a barbecue? They're not coming to my house. And we said, well, how do you feel about those people? And they said, well, it's easy. Bankers are cold and arrogant and impersonal. How do you feel about yourselves in relationship to your bank? This is the best story in the history of money. In Santa Monica, California, people are so aggravated with ATM surcharge fees that they have them outlawed. Have you ever had anything outlawed? There is no office of having it outlawed. I mean, you got to be pretty angry. You got to be real bee's nest. So they go out and they're successful, and banks rush into Santa Monica, California, and they eliminate the ATM fees from their ATM machines because the public has been successful in having those fees eliminated. They've been outlawed, and the city of San Francisco was close behind. Do you know what banks in California did? They went all the way to the Supreme Court. They took the consumer on, and they won, and they reinstated ATM surcharge fees. And not long thereafter, Washington Mutual went in and eliminated them. And we had billboards up all over our market that says, the $1.50 stops here, and our ATMs were free. And our competitors thought we were nuts, because that is a benefit that you're giving, not to your customer, you're giving that benefit to non-customers, right? Listen to what happened. In the next 6 months, 67% of all new customers who came to us said that was one of the reasons they chose Washington Mutual. It's about listening, because people feel like they're not being heard. This is a magazine that is out of print now. It's called Working Woman, and it says on the front cover, brand yourself before someone else brands you. And that's what that's all about. I mean, when you think about a bank brand, people already have it cleverly figured out. They've got Cujo in the mind, and the cold, arrogant dudes, and, you know, all of that. And the world of banking is just black and white and ugly and not a lot of fun. This is a guy who's helping us change all that. You probably know him as Magic Johnson. We know him as Irvin Johnson, the chairman of the Johnson Development Corporation. And he's out helping corporations understand how to reach the African American community, and he's helping us to do that. Guys, this is not about running ads. This is about policy and procedure and hiring and process and what neighborhood you're in and how you're serving that community. And that's what we're out doing with him. It's the difference between the transaction and the experience. And I can tell you right now, the experience is everything. These are some of the awards that Washington Mutual won just this past year. Fortune's 100 Best Companies to Work For. Fast Company called us the Bank of Middle America. Diversity Magazine named us one of the top 50 companies in the United States, and Fortune called us one of the top 50 companies for minorities. We're really proud of all that, and it really resulted a lot from the attitude that we had, and I can sum it up here. If you're thinking about diversity marketing, think about this. The neighborhood that you're serving is not a segment. That is the market. Stop thinking about segments. It isn't valuable because it changes your perspective. Brands are operational. They're not about the advertising and the marketing. Hire to the brand. It's the most important thing you can do to support the brand. Beware of chinoiserie, and mostly have fun. I want to show you something that we did in New York City. We called it Home of the Free. We joined up with a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, David Hume Kennerly, and we gave kids in schools cameras. And we sent them out into the community, and we said, you can photograph anything you want. A fireman, a local volunteer, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And those kids came back, and they had photographed the mayor of New York, the governor of New Jersey, half of the New York City Council, and members of the United States Senate. Take a look at what happened.
Washington Mutual and the New York Historical Society have teamed together to bring young people into a program that allows them an opportunity to grow and to expand.
I'm joined today by students on a project called Home of the Free.
As a company, I really didn't realize that they were so involved with education in their communities.
I would just love the idea that a corporation would care this much and get this involved, everybody show up to be a part of it. I think the more we can get kids involved, the better.
We're at the New York Historical Society with David Hume Kennerly. His photo exhibit opened here this evening, along with the companion photo exhibit of WAMU Kids.
It was a really neat experience to actually see how these people affect our lives, the public servants that you would never think of.
I believe you were the gentleman that took this one, right? Excellent job.
What the teachers have been saying is really gratifying. I mean, they all talk about how much this has meant to the kids, and they really got behind something. They're excited by it. Nice job.
Who knows, could develop into a wonderful career.
It's so rewarding. I mean, the children loves you. You get all these thank you letters and their pictures, and the parents always come back to the branch.
Washington Mutual is proving itself to be a really family bank, and it's doing its own marketing just by doing this. Because then people say, wow, look what they do for their kids. And you always want a business that can help somebody. Things go wrong, you call them. They're listening to kids, they'll listen to you too.
It has been a great pleasure to be here today. Seattle is the home of Washington Mutual, and on behalf of all of us at Washington Mutual, congratulations to you on this conference and what you in the cable industry are doing to make your programming relevant to your communities, and we recognize that. We just want to congratulate you on that. It's been a great pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much.